What's up, everybody? John McLean here, and on this episode, I want to talk to you about training, because going to the range and training and practicing is something that everyone should do. Okay, if you're a firearms owner, you should be doing it. If you're a golfer, you should be doing it, right? However, sometimes what's more important than just going out and sending rounds into the berm is that you have to know why you're sending each round into the berm, and that means you have to come up with a training plan. So I'm going to show you a little bit about how I think about and go about creating a training plan when it comes time for me to get ready for the shooting season. So let's get out to the range, and then I'll show you and explain to you a little bit more in depth about what I'm talking about. All right, so we're out to the range. Now, before I start talking about how I have targets set up and what targets to shoot at, we got to figure out the purpose of training. The purpose of training is to improve on certain aspects or skills that we feel are lacking in the execution or the confidence, and to build that up, okay? So I'm going to give you an example here. Let's say you feel like every time you see a piece of steel, you are terrified. You hate steel. Steel is your worst enemy. Like, it's just, there's no other target out there that confirms that you don't know how to pull a trigger more than steel, because every time you pull the trigger and you hear bang with no ding, it just brings your ego, your confidence, everything comes crashing down, right? And your sense of urgency and your, oh my gosh, the voices in your head starts getting louder. So we got to learn how to control that. Well, does that mean go out to the range and just set up 20 pieces of steel and just shoot until you're completely exhausted and dead, tired, and all out of ammo? No. Because you see, the miss on steel, while it's a miss, you got to figure out, why did you miss? Was it your trigger control? Or was it the fact that maybe you were in a rush to get to the next target, and so you keep kind of prematurely pulling away from the steel target before the shot has fully broken, or anything like that, okay? So that's what we have to focus on, and what we need to figure out in order to come up with a good training plan. It's not what is it that I need to improve on, but rather why is it that that skill set in particular is lacking. So for example, again, not just steel, but let's say paper. Maybe you're just not as accurate as you want to be. You got to figure out what is causing you to rush the trigger pull, or to not allow the sights to correctly get aligned in order to ensure that you get the shot necessary for that target. And then you need to attack the problem from that angle, rather than saying, well, I suck at steel, so I'm just going to go out and shoot a bunch of steel. Okay? So, with that being said, let's talk about the first drill that I'm going to focus on. In this particular case, for me personally, I'm shooting my open gun. I'm getting ready for Multi-Gun Nationals. I just finished the Zombieland match, and I kept finding myself, when it came to my pistol, focusing on the dot and not the target. So my goal today is to come out, one, I changed out the mag springs in my mags. I want to make sure that those are functioning. And then two is to become more proficient and make it more of a automatic thing versus something that I have to continually think about, of watch the target, bring the dot to the target, and then squeeze the trigger. Not look at the target, bring the dot to the target, focus on the dot, and then squeeze the trigger. Okay? So let's talk about the first drill and why I'm using it as a stepping stone for the rest of the day. So there you go. This is the target array for the first drill that I'm going to focus on. Just a single piece of steel. The reason is I don't want to have a super complicated stage or drill set up when I'm working, when I'm trying to focus and work on something that's so basic and fundamental, like just looking at the target, bringing the dot to the target, and squeezing the trigger. Okay, so by doing this, I am driving home the skill set of stare at the target, bring the dot to the target, and then squeeze the trigger. And that's all I'm thinking about, focusing on, working on for this particular drill. Down the road, I'm going to throw in other targets, but right now I want to focus on the main objective for me, which is to watch the target, bring the dot to the target, and then send the shot, not to then focus in on the dot and squeeze the trigger. So let's get to work. All right, so just focus on the single target, and I feel like I'm watching the target, bringing the dot to it just like I'm supposed to be. So this time I'm going to incorporate another target to it. However, again, if we're talking about misses on steel and stuff like that, what is one of the reasons behind throwing a miss on steel is because you're trying to get to the next target before fully committing to that last one. So the way I like to train and practice my confidence, my focus, and my patience at the same time on steel is by bringing in a piece of paper closer to me than the steel target is. Because it's closer, I want to transition to the paper fast. I want to get 2 shots off on it fast. And because I know that target is there waiting for me, I want to force my brain and myself to focus on the steel, ensure that I get that first round hit before moving to the paper. But I also don't want to be in a position where I shoot, let the gun recoil back on the steel, it's a hit, but now my gun's on the steel already, and now I have to start the transition. I want it to be a confirmation. Watch my sight lift off. If I call a good shot, then I'm going to immediately start moving to the paper, and so on and so forth. So I'm learning how to, like I say, work my throttle, but that means don't whiskey throttle it before you're off that steel target and send a good shot. So let's get focused on that. Ow. Okay. I got stickers on my feet. All right. So we've done that a couple times. Again, I'm feeling comfortable. I'm feeling like, okay, yes, I'm watching the dot. I'm not watching the dot. I'm looking at the target. I'm bringing the dot, and I'm watching the dot come to the target and then squeezing the shot. I'm not necessarily focusing in on the dot. So it's not like I'm seeing 1 dot and 2 targets. Rather, I'm seeing 1 target, bringing the dot to it. And as soon as the dot's in an acceptable sight picture, I go ahead and squeeze the trigger. I let a couple of them get loose on me. So I did, and I knew it. That's the thing. I knew right away as soon as I pulled the trigger that I jerked it low left, got it into the no shoot. One of them is right on the perf, but it happens, okay? The other thing I'm trying to focus on is the fact that I'm shooting an open gun, which means that there's not as much recoil as my single stacks or my limited or my carry optic. Like, I need to have the confidence to get on the trigger and know that I can pull the trigger twice, get 2 good shots, you know, and not be afraid of that. So now that I've worked on that a bit, now I'm gonna actually go ahead and do a field course and just kind of drive home everything that I've worked on so far in a more complex scenario. So now I do have a stage plan in my head. I am gonna try and remember what it is I'm supposed to do and where I'm planning on doing it. But again, if at any point I start finding myself focusing on the dot and not the targets, I'm gonna realize it, and at that point I need to go back and work a little bit more on really making sure that I'm doing what I need to do and what I'm trying to focus on, which is looking at the target and bringing the dot to the target, not look at the target, bring the dot to the target, and now focus on the dot. Okay, so field course, here we go. Alrighty, well, all done at the range for the day. The point is this: going out and shooting 500 rounds in a training session, okay, but did every single round have a purpose, or are you just going out and shooting bullets? You can get more done out of having a training idea or plan and only 100 rounds of ammunition than you can by just going out and burning 500 rounds doing whatever. Okay, so take that message from this video. That's the point. The point is to have a point. Don't just go out and aimlessly blow ammo into the berm and say that you're training, because if you don't have a specific purpose behind why you're sending each and every bullet, you're not really training, you're just shooting. Hope you found the video enjoyable, useful, resourceful, whatever. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell button, and I don't know, maybe we'll just call this series on Shoot Gooder. See ya.